Okay, so sorry for the very short delay, but David has been running from like hall 10 to here in world record time. So, Play for Tomorrow, How Gamers Will Accelerate the Clean Energy Transition is our next talk. David, you founded Unity, a very small company that nobody knows today. Many, many years ago, no. Yeah. And you're still on the board. So, but now you have a new platform called CleanPlay. And what this is about that we tell us now. And yeah, thank you, and please enjoy.
Thank you so much. I should stand. Is this better? Better? Okay. Okay. Hey, no, sorry. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we showed up really early on time, but in the other end of the conference. So, hey, 20 something years ago, I wanted to make video games with a couple of friends, and we tried, and we kind of sucked at it. We sold like 2,500 copies of a game called Gooball. And then while we were doing that, we built technology for ourselves because there was no Unity. So we built an engine for ourselves. Like everyone else was doing that. And we didn't know how to build game engines, so we did it kind of the wrong way. So the right way to build a game engine is you start with the rendering and the loading of data and the logic and the physics, and then you add like editing tools on top. Because then your engine will be good, and the editing tools will suffer, but game developers can survive a lot of hardship. But we didn't know this, so we started the other way. We started with the tools and built tools. Why did we build tools? I don't know. But we had some, I think, deep hunches that tools are really important. In fact, if you think about the sort of history of humanity, it's really a story of tool use, tool development, and tool distribution. So we did that, and as we built that, we sort of realized we'd hit on something kind of bigger. So with a failed game company around us, it wasn't really failed yet, but it would have failed. We decided to become a software company and develop tools for the games industry. And this engine was originally named after German philosopher Immanuel Kant. We were not really thinking very commercially at the time, but eventually it would be Unity. So, we realized that with tooling and really accessible use of the software, we could really, change the dynamics of the games industry, and democratize is a cool word that we attached ourselves to very early. Who could make games, and how they would make games, and how they would get distributed, and we had no kind of conception of how big it would be, but it became kind of big, and half the video games in the world roughly are built with our software, and I'm really proud of that. But more than market share and revenues and stuff like that, what I'm maybe most proud of is just that we went to kind of bed every night, asking ourselves, like, what is the ultimate toolness of this? How can we enable more things and so on? At least on the good days. We didn't always succeed in this, but I think we come back every day and we try. I stepped out of my operating role at Unity 10 years ago. After being CEO for 12 years, I was kind of not used to being unemployed. So I got investing in technologies and working with founders, and that's really fun and exciting. And I worked with some game companies and tools companies and AI companies and whatnot. But really, what I fell in love with was deep tech and scientists addressing the really big problems of humanity, like climate change, which I've been worrying about like the rest of us since I was a kid, but I'd done nothing about it like most of us. And I found outside of Unity, I found all these scientists, all these entrepreneurs, wielding new technologies, new methodologies to solve, or at least let's say address, the sort of really big series of interlinked crises that is climate change. By the way, now I've spent most of a decade working on this, and it's really bad. Okay, I'm not going to talk about how bad it is, but it's quite bad. It'll be bad for more than a century. Immense damage has already been done. It's not going to get undone. It's pretty bad. But humanity will most likely survive just fine. Civilization, we'll see. But so I decided I'm not going to talk about this. You can read about it online. So in here, in the economic system, in the industrial system, there's a lot of things we can do, and they are getting done. The most important thing is that making clean power is like getting really, really cheap and beating out traditional coal, etc. But you still need some push, and there's like all the installed coal, all the coal mines are getting enormous subsidies around the world. So in order to compete with them, we actually have to make something that's quite a lot better. And in my sort of investing career, I'm looking for technologies that either accelerate this or use the power to replace some old industrial dirty processes, and that's really fun actually. Sort of slightly embarrassing how fun it is to work on this stuff. But I had this one regret, which is that leaving the games industry behind, at least significantly, meant I was like ignoring the fact that more than a third of human population are gamers. It's like several billion people, and it seemed kind of absurd to me that we couldn't somehow use that, leverage that in some useful way. Just to quantify a little bit what this means, so in Germany alone, it's a mid-sized country, I suppose, a really lovely country, well industrialized with a lot of cool people who like playing video games. Depending on how you count, it's probably like 27 million PC and console gamers, PC and or console gamers, right? So something like a third of the population, probably a little bit less, are gamers. And what is their power usage just in this one country? A modern console with a TV setup draws, let's say, around 500 kilowatt hours per year. There's a range, but it's estimated to be around that. A gaming PC rig can be like twice as much or even more for really serious gaming. So if you average it out, you get to somewhere between 800 and 2,000 kilowatt hours per gamer in Germany. So if we take some midpoint, some sort of by the way, I'm saying this average or approximately because nobody really knows. It's also not really important. But if we assume like a sort of a mild midpoint of 1,200 kilowatt hours per gamer per year, that's roughly 32 terawatt hours per year. Of course, we don't have a good intuition for what that means, but it's something like a city of 5 million people and all their electricity usage. There's a pretty sizable, amount of power. It's probably 5% of Germany's total electricity consumption goes to gaming. It's not so bad. It could be more. It might be almost twice, depending on how you look at it. But if you assume, a lower bound, then it's huge. On the upper end, it's like the Berlin, Hamburg, and Munich together. I'm not sure it's quite there, but I think it's maybe close, and it's rising on average. When a group of people does something that like affects the actual power budget of the country, that means something, or it could mean something. It's a predictable type of usage. Averaging out, it's very predictable over the year. It's very predictable over weather, for instance, and so on. So it's a more stable power use than a lot of other things. When a group of people decides to use power in this way, it can form a so-called demand signal, which could be very useful. And in fact, I realized with a couple of my friends that this could be a tool for change. But of course, you have to focus this demand because right now it's just, happening everywhere. There's no story. There's no aggregation. Okay. So every time you press start, you're pulling power from a grid that connects all of us. The grid isn't a static thing. It's a living, constantly balancing system, supply on one side and demand on the other. We are mostly the demand here. The good news is that this grid is changing. It's quite dirty in a lot of places. In Germany, it's quite dirty. Renewables are being added every year. Battery storage is finally starting to scale super fast, which is really kind of the last piece that's been missing for this grid to become really, really green. But the bad news is that it's not happening fast enough by a long shot. So when a buyer, like a large buyer or a community gets together, this can really affect in making purchasing decisions and tells the energy developers what they want. That's a signal that the developers can use to gain the confidence to build the grid or develop the grid. So demand signals change industries. Like when tech giants Google and Microsoft committed to running their data centers on 100% renewable power, it directly led to the construction of entire wind and solar farms, which is a really big deal. That's not charity, but just smart procurement and pretty good PR actually. So now think back to the numbers from above, right? 5 or more % of Germany's power consumption, electricity consumption, right now fragmented, unmanaged, and mostly fossil fueled, or largely fossil fueled. So getting it organized by platform, publishers, players can be really important. There's a dream scenario because, again, it can be like an anchor demand that can really push the grid. So then, we just were searching for a will to organize it. And it just happens that these people, the gamers, they are really good at organizing, especially when there's loot involved. So that's what we set out to do with CleanPlay. The idea is really simple. Make it possible for players to contribute to the clean energy transition simply by doing what they already do, which is playing games and arguing about them. No guilt trips, no complicated lifestyle changes, just a seamless way to match gameplay with real clean energy. And over time, leverage that to build new capacity. So a couple of visuals on this, like a player in Berlin logs on for their nightly session, and the power comes directly and immediately from a wind farm that she helped fund. Sounds crazy, but we're pretty close to it. It's not a marketing stunt or some offset, but actually, turn on the PC, the power comes from the windmill. Or an esports team in Seoul, for instance, playing a tournament, knowing that the servers running their match are powered by solar capacity that they bought together with their fans. So entire gaming communities can pool their energy demand, and we can trigger the construction of projects. Not a fantasy. We have support from some of the most influential people in the games industry who see the potential with us. Leaders at publishers we're talking to, platform holders. They really see that this could be good for the planet, but also for the industry. Because our industry is not always loved by everyone. And I think making a very clear story of how our industry is making things better can really be helpful. So the scale is huge, and the engagement is pretty crazy sometimes. If you ever watched gamers argue about balancing changes on Reddit, or discussing pricing decisions at Unity, that they're not shy at voicing their opinions. So this is what we're doing. We're gonna go big. Gamers shouldn't just rent access; they should own the infrastructure. It's not quite the first step, but we can see exactly how to get there. We've seen this work elsewhere, by the way, in community solar, cooperative broadband networks. It's not an entirely new idea, but there's no reason why gaming can't do the same. So economics are working, technology is there, players are definitely there. And if we succeed, we'll not just be cutting emissions, but we'll be creating a new kind of digital citizenship where players are playing their favorite games as an act of building a better future. Thank you. We have time for a couple of questions if anyone's around. I'd love to chat with you, or otherwise afterwards.
Yeah, so any questions for David? No? Yes, here's one. Wait, we have a microphone, so you can also be heard in the
microphone
stream.
as well.
Yeah, no. Huh? I'm sorry, this mic is still off, I'm afraid. I'm sorry. Sasha is on it.
I could also just speak louder. Okay. I'd like to know how the participation or the owning part of the infrastructure would work. Is there already a more detail?
It's not there yet.
Okay.
We just got started. Well, it's not entirely new, but we're live on PlayStation. By the way, on PlayStation Store, you can download the app. I suggest you download it. It's early days. We don't have a lot of things in there, but you'll for a few dollars per month, you'll get clean energy, and we'll give you loot. This loot is early days. I'm not saying it's the best loot, but we're talking to great publishers, and we'll be adding to this and really building something that's useful. It should be so that you're getting more than you pay for and more than you expect. So the nice thing is the publishers want this as well. So we're collaborating with them to make this happen. From there to actually owning the infrastructure, we're not there. We know to get there, we just need some mass, and we'll get there from, like, as we go from thousands of subscribers to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, that's where it starts making sense to own the infrastructure.
So just to understand it, does it work like I'm owner of the company, or like a stock owner, or
it's a good question. We're not there.
Yeah,
right now we're providing the energy, okay. But we really want to get to a point where it becomes like a community ownership.
Okay.
That's the goal.
Thank you.
Cheers. And sorry to have like a shitty answer so far, but it's yeah. I mean, the simple answer is like we need to evolve, like build the system where the consumer side is really working. And then the other part will be easy.
Okay. Any more questions here? Over here, the gentleman.
I'm not really sure if I understood it correctly, but I'm playing and investing, and then I'm participating in your project. But is there also a possibility? I'm looking for a solution where I can change my behavior, and then also get reward or get an incentive for changing a better behavior. Like if I change my energy source provider to a more sustainable one, or I'm also a member of the board of Zero Waste Germany. So if I'm doing switching, substituting some elements I'm using and not consuming anymore and not wasting anymore.
Amazing.
Yeah, is that also a possibility where I could?
I think that's a good idea. So inside the app right now we have a couple of options, but we want to have more things you can add to it. And then, as I said, like as you kind of build your clean life, we'll be adding loot on the other side, to incentivize it. But definitely get in touch with us. Download the app, by the way. It's pretty simple. It's early days, and then get in touch with us and tell us what we should be adding to it. And we want to basically listen to the community and do something that they actually want.
Okay, more questions for David? Everybody happy? Okay.
Cool. Thank you so much. And sorry to be late.
No, it's all cool. Thank you.
Got my cardio for today.